All right, good morning here from my home office. I just want to put out a new video. I'm thinking about putting more of a focus on Linux on my main YouTube channel. So I've been using Linux for a long time. Right? I've been promoting Linux for my students and been using Linux since early days. Not 1991 when Linus announced it and released it, but pretty soon afterwards. So I'm currently running on Linux. I'm running on Nobara 40 actually here on the desktop. On a machine, I can probably share my specifications, but I have been running Linux since early days. Let me go over a little bit of history of my use of Linux. So back in 1992, SLS was released by Peter MacDonald, probably the first Linux distribution that really was popular and being used. There was one that came out of Texas A&M, Tamu. I believe I might have poked around a little bit about Tamu, but I know that I played some with SLS. SLS led to a couple of real important distributions. One is Debian, which I've used many times, and if you're using Linux, a lot of you are using distributions that are forked and based on Debian Linux, which the name of Debian, by the way, it was created by Ian Murdoch, is a play on the name of his wife and himself, Deborah, and Ian. I assume it's Deborah. So that's where Debian came from, if you didn't know that. So I might have used SLS. I don't really remember using SLS, but I think I did. Here's the announcement going to the Wayback Machine. Use the Wayback Machine, support the Wayback Machine. What I find interesting is I'm originally from Victoria, BC. I studied at the University of Victoria. I was actually studying at the University of Victoria when this post went out to Net News. And I used Usenet back then. I remember the machine sanjuan.uvic.ca actually. So Peter was a grad student, I believe, at the time, if I'm correct, at the University of Victoria. I think he graduated late 80s and then did his master's at the University of Victoria. So I was a student when this happened. Didn't really know that. But maybe I did. Maybe that's how I heard about SLS, because I was at UVic at the time in this time of period. And so you can actually go and get a version of SLS 102 and run it and be interesting to play around with if you're really curious about the history of Linux. But my main installations were Slackware in the early days. So I know in 1993 at least, and this was released in July, just before I headed off to grad school at University of Washington in Seattle, I did do installations of Slackware on my home machine. Pretty sure it was a 486 DX66, if I remember correctly. It'd be fun to see if I could find pictures of that old machine. But I did run Slackware in the day. I remember the A series of the floppy installation, the D for development, the X for the X Windows, N for the networking. So I did use those Slackware floppies on 3.5-inch floppies at the time and did installation of Slackware in the early 1990s. There's a really good history of Slackware. I will include all the links that I'm using right here down below in the description. I read this is an excellent description of the history of SLS going into Slackware and the work of Patrick in creating Slackware. So I'll link that down below. You can go take a look at that. Another interesting Linux that a lot of you hear about is Arch Linux. And you can, look for the meme about, by the way, I use Arch. I have used Arch. Probably some of the videos on this channel is about myself using Arch, or maybe a distro based on Arch like Manjaro. But I prefer to run stock Arch when I'm running Arch. And it's a very important distribution. It's a separate distribution. It's not a fork of Debian. It's one of the kind of parent distributions. And interesting enough, Arch Linux was also created by someone from Victoria, BC, Judd Vinnett. So my city, my hometown, definitely has a lot of history of early distributions and current distributions of Linux. So you can go check out Arch. You can check out Slackware. There's an interview here with Judd, who originally created Arch Linux, and I'll link that down below. It's linked in the Wayback Machine. So why do I want to create this channel? I'm I'm a desktop Unix or Linux user. I used Unix back in the days as well. I actually do have a dual boot on this machine so that mainly my offspring can use Windows to play video games that don't run well in Linux. But Linux runs well for all my everyday tasks, including gaming. Gaming works fine in Linux. You can go check out my gaming channel. I'll put a link down below if you're interested. And I do record playthroughs of different games on Linux, and if you have a request to see if something runs well on Linux, I'm happy to try it out for you. The reason that a lot of this runs really well is because of Proton. So you can go check out the Proton Database and look for your favorite Linux or favorite video game. Let's see, let's do a search for Red Dead Redemption. And so Red Dead Redemption 2 is gold, Red Dead Redemption 1 is gold, online is gold as well. This is installed with RDR2. Just run well. And I've run them as well, and you can find others. You can find others and go check my gaming channel for more information. What I'm running right now is Nobara. Nobara is a, basically it's forked off from, or a spin, I'm probably not using the right words, but it comes from Fedora. Okay, it's a modified version of Fedora, as Glorious Eggroll explains here. It's got a great Discord community for support and conversation. Go check that out. I'm really happy with Nobara. I installed it sometime around June this year, and it runs well. I had a few hiccups, but I know how to get my way around Linux, so I dealt with them. It's not, I wouldn't call it a distribution for beginners to Linux, but it is a nice distro that just does everything I need. I'm no longer in the years and 20 years ago of compiling my own kernel just because. I want a machine that just runs and lets me do my work and play and goes. You can also check out the link here about Glorious Eggroll. This is his blog. Glorious Eggroll created Nobara. He's also got a lot of other projects. He does a custom Proton fork of the Proton software, as well as Wine. He's a developer at Red Hat, by the way. His Nobara project, he's got his Discord and a Patreon. If you want to go check his work out, check out Glorious Eggroll. It's all one word. Does a lot of work in the community to make Linux gaming work well. So why I'm creating these set of videos on the main channel. The main channel's been very inactive for many years. I did a lot of videos in the day, teaching tips or ed tech teaching tips. I can't remember the name of the videos I was creating, but during the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, I was creating a lot of videos to help educators deal with teaching online. And I have created a lot of videos in the past for my students about C++ or Python or whatever, but I've kind of left it dormant. I think I could revive it as being my main channel for talking about using Linux, about doing developing or teaching, all the things I do in a professional manner, and leave the other channel for the Linux gaming playthrough stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope this is useful. More importantly, please leave some comments down below about what questions you have. I'm happy to answer any questions that come in through the comments, and if there's suggestions for videos, I'm happy to do some. Thank you very much for watching this, and have an awesome day. Take care of yourself, and if you can, please help take care of someone else.